kila kitu siwezi afford, hata shati. Maji nanywa ya kanjo yako ya chupa za mapambo. Nalipia mtoto wako elimu ya bure ya juu. Unanipa ya bure lakini ya utu. Oh no. So nitapata wapi majibu ya maswali? Mahindi lienda wapi? Pia shilingi ya shule za msingi. Pawa mtume, mbona jela usimtume? Lazima abuniwe tume. Lazima abuniwe tume. Mapenzi ndizo hali mabasa tulificha kwa kabati. Kazi kwa vijana, pesa kwa wazee. Tulimangamanga mpaka za maded I say. Lazima abuniwe tume. Lazima abuniwe tume. Oh. Sheria. Oh. Sheria. Sheria. Fuata. Sheria. Sheria. Oh, oh. Sheria. Yeah, yeah. Fuata. Sheria. 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 Oh, oh. Fuata. Sheria. Sheria. Pia wewe mwananchi, tabia zako ziko chini. Unapenda kulipa hongo na kutumia njia za uongo. Una mipango na hata watoto wa kando. Haujui hata majina yao. Kura yako uliuza maini figo, ukakulia hadi dini. Kisha wasema tukuthamini, na wewe hapo hauaminiki. Na wewe hapo haupangiki.
Wapi kidero when you need to slap somebody? Complain ufisadi, kwani ulidhani t-shirt 50 bob leso siku ya campaign ilikuwa free? Ni 5 year loan investment, utalipa kingia parliament. We are one, amani we are one. Na utumishi kwa wote, utu missing CCTV we were watching. Racial insecurity na job opportunity ni kama mti ya kibiriti. Side moja heavy, usiniambie Kenya kuna umaskini, kwani hizi fat fingers zinaibia nane? Maskando inatuletea wa survival. Media define leadership, na sura ukiaka front page na improve readership. Ambia wase wa Twitter wa hashtag hii ama hash reality doesn't make a good TT. Commission of inquiry wanakula commission bila kutupa ukweli. Ni kubaya baka kukiwa kuzuri, unashindwa nini mbaya? Machozi ya perpetrator ineza dilute damu ya victim ilimwagika. After all is said and done, all will be said, nothing will be done. You're not my tribe, but you're my blood type. Lakini it doesn't have to take tragedy to know that.
Sheria.
Well. It's about that time. Karibuni sana. Weh. It's a lovely day out there, man. If you're in Nairobi, if you're not in Nairobi, I don't know what the weather is like where you are, but it's a beautiful blue sky. There's no cloud in sight. The sun is warm. It's not yet hot. So, that's just how we like it. That's a perfect Nairobi weather. The green city under the sun. The green part we're not sure of anymore with all the high-rise apartments coming up. But let's not start off on a bad note. Welcome to Sheria Dive right here with me, WaNjeri, on Pawa Radio. And remember, this is that show where we talk everything legal. We're going to be looking at some of the things that have been happening this week because, manze, Kenya is like a never-ending telenovela. You think one thing is done, another one rises. So we're going to just be looking at what has been happening in the country this past week. But then also today, one of the big stories that has hogged the media limelight has been the Adani public-private partnership, the PPP. And, many questions have been asked. There is currently parliamentary, the Minister for Energy, David Chichi, was actually summoned to the Senate, and he has been asked to give information on that Adani deal for the JKIA. But then we've also discovered they also have a deal for Ketraco. So maybe let's pull it back and start by asking ourselves the question, what exactly is a PPP? And what should happen when you have a public-private partnership? What really, when this was being created as a way of helping a country develop, what was in the minds of people? And are we achieving that here? But then also we look at that through the lens of the Constitution, because remember, Article 1.1 is very clear about the sovereignty of the people and their constitution. Everything must be done through the Constitution, whether we like it or not. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. But of course, the first segment of this show, we always feature an artist. And today, we feature Bridget Blue. Bridget Blue is an amazing vocalist, amazing musician, and we're going to be getting 5 of the best from Bridget Blue. Let me know if you know any of these songs. Remember, you can always give us your feedback on our YouTube live chat in the chat section. And of course, if you'd like to reach out to us on the socials, it's at Power Radio, at James K. WaNjeri on the socials. And we're going to be happy to answer your questions. Karibuni sana, and remember, this one is too good for you to listen to it alone. So why don't you share that link with someone you love and someone you care about, even your haters, because we all need to learn and to know better. Sawa sawa. Welcome to the show. Let's go.
Power Radio. Tune in and power up.
Some days you feel like the world is on fire. Some days you feel like you're swimming and flying. Some days you wake up and you don't feel like you wanna chase what you don't see. But some days you feel like you're floating up high. So how about you try this time? Lifting up your head and sing out. What more than I see, there's more inside of me. Just lift up your voice and say, nitajaribu tena kesho, nitaamka upya na nisonge, hata wakipenda kunivunja, mambo yakizidi unga, sitashindwa kujivuta. Kesho naamka upya, kesho naamka upya. Some days I know that you think of surviving, but you sleep and wake up and don't feel like fighting. But there's space in your soul to keep wanting more, to desire to soar. But some days you know that their words, they mean nothing. So how about you try this time? Lifting up your head and say, what more than I see, there's more inside of me. Just lift up your voice and say, nitajaribu tena kesho, nitaamka upya na nisonge, hata wakipenda kunivunja, mambo yakizidi unga, sitashindwa kujivuta, kesho naamka
You know what? I love that song by Bridget Blue, Kesho. Nitajaribu tena kesho. And what an aptitude to start the show. Remember, regardless of what you're going through, regardless of what we are going through even as a country, we can always wake up and try again. You know, that's the thing about life. You get up and you try again. I don't know who's listening to this right now, but don't give up. There's more. There's still more out there for you. And we still need you here as we continue in the work of nation building. That's Kesho by Bridget Blue. Let's get another song from her. She's our artist. She's our feature artist for today's show. Bridget Blue, of course, you can find on the socials. And you can also find her music on streaming platforms and YouTube. An amazing, amazing Kenyan artist. Sultry voice. Very talented. Let's listen to the next song.
Power Radio. Tune in and power up.
Jack on the beat. I love you, but my mama doesn't care. I need you, but daddy don't wanna hear. Why did you have to be a criminal? Now we be sailing on a love boat. Maneno yote ulionipa tupilia, labda baada punta fikiria. These days your breath is just full of liquor. You gotta make a change or you're gonna lose me too. Laughing out loud cause you want us to see you. Thinking that everybody wanna be you. Talk your wrist off, then you go like me too. Baby, we both know that ain't not true. You're living like a dog cause you're trying to be cool. Who the hell said you gotta act like a fool? I don't know about you, but I'd rather be different. I'd rather be different. I'd rather be true love in my read, they call it cliche. Your version is funny, you're back in the day. Drugs, alcohol, is them all in your way. Then make up and suddenly you're ugly. Who the hell said you gotta dress up like them? Laugh like them, tell like them, that's just the damn game. I call it crap, I call it shit, all kinds of names. You gotta get it, that you gotta be you. Laughing out loud cause you want us to see you. Thinking that everybody wanna be you. Talk your wrist off, then you go like me too. Baby, we both know that ain't not true. You're living like a dog cause you're trying to be cool. Who the hell said you gotta act like a fool? I don't know about you, but I'd rather be different. I'd rather be different. I'd rather be different. I'd rather be different, yeah. I'd rather be different. Oh, yeah. I'd rather be different.
I'd rather be different. But is there anyone listening who you've ever fallen in love with a gangster, you know, with a bad boy? And everyone is telling you, wachana na huyo kijana. Wachana na huyo kijana bana. Has that ever happened to you? Because that's what the song Different is about. You know, Bridget says the song, she's falling in love with this guy, and everyone is saying, please leave this guy alone. I mean, how did you navigate that? I think nowadays we call it simping, eh? And as we always say, dust is constant. Dust is constant. Vumbi lazima utaonyeshwa. Eh? Fantastic song right there by Bridget Blue. Let's get to song number 3. Remember, Bridget Blue is a Kenyan artist, more of a R&B sound, you know, soulful, you know, the type of song that just puts you in a mood. So she's our feature artist. We are now on song number 3. Please check her out. Check out her music and support her. Go to her shows, everything. Because remember, at Power Radio, we only play 100% Kenyan music. And we are all about promoting our local artists. Let's go.
From sunrise to sunset, all day and night. Power Radio.
You promised a lifetime. You promised to get away. You promised a dream. You promised to find a way. Where is it now? I gave you everything. Trying to lie. I guess you got everything. I was happy in my mama's house. I thought I wasn't, and I wonder how. I didn't wanna come out. Said you got a way out. Said you're gonna figure it out. I'm alone now. Somebody take me back to the innocence. I'm tired of this. These streets of Nairobi, streets of Nairobi. Why did nobody want me? Somebody take me back to the innocence. I'm tired of this. These streets of Nairobi, streets of Nairobi. Why did nobody want me? These streets of Nairobi. Oh, oh, here we go again with a story. Oh, didn't know I really meant it. No, let's try it again. Come with me, now see we fix it for the night. Niku onyeshe kitu nice, ukona figure fine. I have contemplated these lies before. Now I'm here and I'm ready for. I was happy in my mama's house. I thought I wasn't, and I wonder how. I didn't wanna come out. Said you got a way out. Said you're gonna figure it out. I'm alone now. Happy in my mama's house. I thought I wasn't, and I wonder how. I didn't wanna come out. Said you got a way out. Said you're gonna figure it out. I'm alone now. Somebody take me back to the innocence. I'm tired of this. These streets of Nairobi, streets of Nairobi. Why did nobody want me? Somebody take me back to the innocence. I'm tired of this. These streets of Nairobi, streets of Nairobi. Why did nobody want me?
Nairobi streets. I think we all know what everyone says about Nairobi, eh? And the streets of this city of ours, Nairobi. By the way, if you know the governor of Nairobi, please tell him that the street lights are not working. Usiku bwana unaweza pigwa ngeta ndani ya gari. Honestly, guys, honestly. Is someone waiting to cut a ribbon and launch electricity on the roads of Nairobi? It's too dark. So please, if you know the governor of Nairobi, just tell him, Bana, shape up, my guy. The structure, the infrastructure is already there. The lights are there. And by the way, if it's a question of paying Kenya Power, why don't you just use solar? This country is leading the world in, creating power from geothermal sources, solar. I mean, we can't really say that because of Kenya Power, now we can't have street lights. Just install solar on those things and to Songe. All right? That's Bridget Blue, number 3 song. Let's now go to her number 4 song. What do you think about Bridget Blue, by the way? I'm really curious to hear your feedback. Could it be possible you've actually never heard of Bridget Blue and this is the first time you're listening to her music? What do you think? Let's give her flowers. Remember, you can use the chat function on the YouTube live chat to give us your thoughts, but you can also reach out to us on the socials at Power Radio, at James K. WaNjeri. I'm going to be reading some of those comments and some of that feedback. And of course, remember, the big topic of the day, Adani, PPP. Kunaendaje manze? What's happening? We're coming back to that.
Azanga mwana kumama papa awe kumama papa kisi asoni kumama papa kinywa changu na kusifu Baba yangu, upendo wangu mimi nakupa Baba. Umeiweza roho yangu Yesu, umeiweza. 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 Tumeuona mkono wako Bwana, matendo yako Baba ni makuu mno. Umetutoa mbali ukatushika mkono, mahali ulio na peke hatuwezi. Chini hata juu watu unawainua, sifa na utukufu ni zako milele. Twasifu jina lako milele, tunakusifu daima, wewe mwema, tunaishi kwako.
You know, I always say some of the best artists are actually church musicians. Most of these people, ukiangalia at their background, where did they start their music journey? Many people started in church, and I think it's wonderful that church has been one of those places that people can just go and use their talents, because art must be shared. Art cannot be kept in a cupboard and locked in forever. That's Bridget Blue covering some of the popular songs. I think there was a song there by WaNjeri, Umeiweza. So mnaona, is it working? It's working. Finally, let's get song number 5 from Bridget Blue, our feature artist of the afternoon. Before we get into serious discussions here about PPPs, make sure you have a pen and a notebook. It's about to go down.
From sunrise to sunset, all day and night. Power Radio. Jack on the beat.
They say on drugs, I say on me. They say it's sad, I say it's funny. You in some crap, don't you dare call me, cause I know that I can get you out this shit. I know it's weird that I'm quite honest, but if I don't, then who's gonna know? When mama said, don't you play with fire, you should listen and just move out my way. I've got this feeling that someone's on me. I've got this feeling that someone's on me, yeah. Someone's on me. Ooh, someone's on me, someone's on me. Yeah, someone's on me. Oh, someone's on me, someone's on me. Cause I'm a drug, and you're on me. And I'm a drug that I just cannot resist. Someone's on me, ooh, someone's on me. Once you begin, but there's no ending. Oh boy, it's like divine calling. And you don't know if you're up or falling out at the end of the tunnel. Well, not. I've got this feeling that someone's on me. I've got this feeling that someone's on me. Someone's on me. Ooh, someone's on me, someone's on me. Yeah, someone's on me. Oh, someone's on me, someone's on me. Cause I'm a drug, and you're on me. on me. Someone's on me. Someone's on me. Yeah. And I'm a drug that you just cannot resist. Someone's on me. You see me as a flower. They see me for my thorns and nothing more. You see me for my beauty. They see me for my flaws. They can't ignore. Don't they know that rainbows could come with storms? You see me for my everything, down to my core. I don't have the recipe. I'm only me. I got one heck of a big heart. I hope it counts for something. I may not be sweet as your morning tea, but you know when I step outside, somebody's glad to see me. I'm not perfect, but I know I'm worth it. I may not be your cup of tea, but I'm somebody's everything. I'm not perfect, but I don't deserve this. I may not be what you need, but let me be. Life has been a miracle. Can I make it far alone? I would never ask for more. I don't know how to ignore, and I don't understand why it's so hard to lose. If I put away my pride, it'd be easier to choose who I need to lose and make no excuse. I'm not perfect, but I know I'm worth it. I may not be your cup of tea, but I'm somebody's everything. I'm not perfect, but I don't deserve this. I may not be what you need, but let me be.
You know, they say there's nothing as beautiful as finding someone who just loves you for who you are. And you don't need to pretend with them. You don't need to act. You just need to be you, and they love you for you. I hope you're finding that kind of love. And if you're not, it's going to come and it's going to find you. Tuko pamoja. That's Bridget Blue, our artist feature of today's show. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, you know, we are having a very deep discussion today as we look at the Adani deal and how public-private partnership should actually be structured in Kenya. Because, surprise, surprise, we are not the ones inventing this thing. Even the World Bank has given what they consider to be best practice in how to go about PPP deals. But before that, of course, how many days later is it? We don't know where the kids are. Where are the children, man? Guys, where are the Russia kids? 70 children are missing. This is a very heartbreaking story. And the fact that I think we have a government that has also decided to take a path of giving people as little information as possible. And the unfortunate outcome of that type of, that type of working is that it then creates what we call a trust deficit. So that whatever the government says, you don't trust it. You're like, no, you guys are hiding something. Even when perhaps they're not hiding anything, but you're like, no. Tunawajua nyinyi watu. So where are the kids, man? 70 children are dead or missing. Where are they? No one can actually tell. And I'm just wondering about the families, man. What are the families going through? And these kids were actually, because this was a primary school, right? So these are kids who are under 13, 14, 12. Majority of them, the kids who perished were, between that age of, 8, 9, 10, 11. This is just really heartbreaking. And we actually need to get answers to this because so far nothing. And I don't know whether the idea is to just move on because suddenly, in Kenya, we always like to say that the people who play games in this country, sometimes I think they are still copying from an old playbook. Because when you're dealing with that tragedy, suddenly the people who are coming to declare they have a kingpin. You're like, take us back to tribal politics now. Mr. I hate tribalism and we should not be tribal. Let us now discuss tribal politics. We have important matters of national interest that we are not dealing with, and it's very, very sad. Of course, yesterday, Justice Mugambi of the High Court of Kenya Constitutional Division has sentenced the acting Inspector General of Police, one Mr. Masengeli, to 6 months in prison for defying 7 court orders. He had actually been told to appear in court 7 times, and he did not. When we come back, I need to give you context for why Masengeli's actions should actually concern us all, and it should get us very, very angry as a society. All right? Let's get some music, and then when we come back, we talk about this 6 months imprisonment. Also, as we look at the PPP process. And of course, I see Elijah Mose. Elijah Mose has a fantastic show together. I think you had their show earlier today. Elijah Mose saying, tuned in, Wakili, loving the playlist, waiting to hear about the Adani case in detail. Tumeuzwa? I guess that's the question. That's the question. Wanjiko Anyoke, Ano Nyoke says, I'm listening in from Loa Kabete na in the show, bana. Sante sana. I would like to know what exactly are the implications of the Adani case for all of us. And she loves the playlist. So, Flozy, you can take your flowers. Fantastic. Let's get some music. And then when we come back, we continue with that discussion that we are having.
Pawa Radio. Tune in and power up.
Bindu vichenjaga daily, mina kuhandanga, nina kuteksti, na we unanilenganga, na sio mara moja, ni vitu nafanyaga.
Bindu vichenjaga. Juzi kwa mama pima nilikupatanga na yule jamaa wa boda boda kijana manyanga na ile minofu ya nyama choma vile mulitafunanga ukinicheki unajifichanga na sio mara moja ni vitu unafanyanga vindu vichenjaga vindu vichenjaga beti kama karanga nimekuchambuanga vile umenicheza karata umenishafulanga kama Yosembi Viva na Banta vile michezo tulichezanga ajua si unanizungushanga baby girl jua vindu vichenjanga nikienda benki si unanifuatanga na tukienda happy havoto tunatuanganga Facebook page havoto unapostanga na nikicheki umenikropanga hapo FIFA kweli kama mpira Messi baby, si umenichezanga. Vindu vichenjaga, vindu vichenjaga. I'm gonna do you a witchy auntie, nikupate na utajua kwamba chapati ni mukate. I'm gonna do you a witchy auntie, nikupate na utajua kwangu sipendi nusu mukate. Nitageuza serikali, nimleta yule Halima anipikie wali na samaki wa kupakiwa. Nitageuza serikali, nimlete yule Halima anipikie wali na samaki wa kupakiwa. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Vindu vichenjaga. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Vindu vichenjaga. No, 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 no. Vindu vichenjaga. Vindu vichenjaga.
Mr. Politician, it's good to see you again. It's been so long since you've been here. You had me thinking you were dead. How's your taxpayer mansion? How was your taxpayer breakfast? How is your taxpayer automobile? You know you drive it so fast. You wind up the window of your fancy car, your fancy car. Turn on the AC. Your fancy car, your fancy car. You can feel the pothole. Your fancy car, your fancy car. You can feel the heat as you drive around in your fancy car. Mr. Politician, tell me, is it true that if we put all the land you own together, you could see it from the moon? It's crazy you have a bodyguard to protect you from me. Where do I apply? Who do I see? Be protected from you. You wind up the window, drive your fancy car, your fancy car. Turn on the AC of your fancy car, your fancy car. You can feel the pothole, your fancy car, your fancy car. You can feel the heat as you drive around in your fancy car. Mr. Politician, let me stop pingiliaing you. After all, I chose you. Monkey see, monkey do. Wait a minute, that means you work for me. It's not the other way around. That's right now. Wait let me have some health care. Send the bill to the legislature. Oh, yo. You wind up the window of your fancy car, your fancy car. Turn on the AC of your fancy car, your fancy car. You can feel the pothole in your fancy car, your fancy car. You can feel the heat as you drive around in your fancy car, your fancy car. Turn on the AC. in your fancy car. Vroom, 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 vroom. I'd like to say hello to all the little people. As you drive around, as you drive around, as you move around, as you look around, as you stick around.
And of course, that's the unmistakable voice of one Eric Wainaina, who's a legend. Eric, receive your flowers, man, wherever you are. Of course, just want to give you a bit of background into understanding why Kenyans should actually be more angry at the fact that the acting Inspector General of Police has decided not to honor court summons. And this is how it goes. On the 19th of August, 2024, three gentlemen, Bob Njagi, Aslam Longton, and Longton Jamil, were picked up by suspected police officers and bundled into a Subaru. All right? Where they were taken was not known. No one knows where they went. No one was given any information. Of course, their families then began by looking for them in the police stations. They were not there. Looking for them in the hospitals. They were not there. Looking for them in the morgue. They were not there. These families then sought the help of the Law Society of Kenya. And the Law Society of Kenya went to court and filed an application that we call a habeas corpus application. And basically, habeas corpus is a Latin term that means produce the body. And the idea behind habeas corpus is that when someone has been taken by state agents, for instance, and you do not know where they are, then the court can order them to produce the person. But it said as produce the body, so that even if that individual is now dead, then at least that body can be produced. So the Law Society of Kenya then got orders, and those orders were directed at the acting Inspector General of Police. And the orders were very straightforward. Produce those three gentlemen, Bob Njagi, Aslam Longton, and Longton Jamil. Of course, Aslam and Jamil are blood brothers. The Inspector General of Police defied those orders. After defying the orders, the Law Society then sought that he be asked to come personally to court to explain where these three gentlemen were and why they had disappeared. He did not come. And that became a sort of a ping pong between the Inspector General of Police and the court. And 7 court orders were ignored by him. As a matter of fact, the last time the matter was in court, the acting Inspector General of Police, One Gilbert Masengeli, was required to be present in court himself, personally present, to answer to those questions, and also to receive his punishment for contempt. What did he do? He sent his assistant to represent him, despite the fact that the assistant is actually not mentioned in court documents. He's not the one who was being sought. He's not the one who was being given orders. Now, the court has issued a decision finding that the acting Inspector General of Police, One Gilbert Masengeli, has been in contempt of court. And to be in contempt of court basically means that you have disrespected the authority of the court. All right? And once you disrespect the authority of the court, then the court has the power to give you sanctions, such as a fine or to send you to jail. He's been sent to 6 months in jail. This guy is still walking around. And you know, one of the things that that irks me a lot is that if you go to Twitter on the National Police Service page or X, you'll actually find that this guy has been, you know, just randering all over the country on some security trips and what. While there is a valid court order requiring his attendance. And perhaps the question is, he's the head of the police. Who is going to arrest him and take him to, prison for him to serve his 6-month sentence? But the reality is that this is not the first time this is happening. Fred Matiang'i, the former CS for Interior, was also found guilty of contempt in the Miguna saga. He never served his time. This is something that should get us worried as a country, because over the past 3 months, we've actually come face to face with the real police of Kenya. People who have used live rounds against protesters who are unarmed, protesters who are not carrying any weapons, and protesters who are engaging in peaceful protest. Rex Kanyeki Masai was shot on the back as he was running because police were chasing young people out of the central business district in Nairobi. But Rex was only going to be one of many. As we speak today, over 60 Kenyans were killed by police. And these 60 Kenyans were in one way or the other participating in the peaceful protest against the government. This should get us really worried because if you look at the report of the 2007-2008 post-election violence, the police played a major role in actually causing the death of many, many Kenyans, to the extent that the then Inspector General of Police or the then Commissioner of Police was actually taken to The Hague. He was listed in the ICC as a key suspect in crimes against humanity. As we look to 2027, as a country, I think we need to be very worried if the police service, rogue as it is, because we have a very rogue police service, if the rogue police service we have is then being led by a rogue Inspector General at the moment, a person who can easily disobey court orders, what does that mean for the future of this country? But even more important is this question. Where is WaNjeri? Where is he? Where is Aslam Longton? Where is Jamil Longton? It's been almost 30 days these gentlemen have been missing. And of course, we know in Kenya, if you go missing for more than 3 days and it's the police who took you, the likelihood is that you are no longer with us. Many bodies were picked up at River Yala. You remember the River Yala tragedies in the past government? And this president promised and said the police will never be used to carry out such heinous acts. But even with all the information we know, the president is actually on record saying we have not abducted anyone, we've not taken anyone. So clearly, kuna watu wanabeba na ufala. But as Kenyans, we actually need to ask the question, where is WaNjeri? Where is Aslam Longton? Where is Jamil Longton? When Rex Kanyeki Masai was shot from the back by a police officer and he died, maybe we didn't ask the questions. Because perhaps had we asked those questions, then 59 other people would not have joined Rex Kanyeki Masai in the list of senseless police killings. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a real problem. And only we can actually come together and solve this problem. Gilbert Masengeli, shame on you, man. You defile the same constitution that you swore to protect and to uphold, and you do not deserve to occupy the position that you occupy today, which is a position of trust on behalf of the people of Kenya. Shame on you, and shame on you.
Pawa Radio. Tune in and power up.
Mapenzi ni sawasawa na wizi, huanza tu kwa uporaji wa hisia bila idhini. Mapenzi yana matukio ya kishenzi, hisia kurukaruka kama panzi, na saa zingine kuraruka kama vazi. Mapenzi haihitaji ujasiri na pia tena haina siri. Tulia nami basi tusafiri. Na mapenzi wacheza ngoma ni wawili, ibusubusu si subutu, isukuhusu si thubutu. Ipambe ua, ikuje na jua, mina wewe, tuwe na ndoa bila doa. Ipambe ua, ikuje na jua, mina wewe, tuwe na ndoa bila doa. Na bibi yobo kibenda, breakfast kwa kitanda, tuburudike siku yote rumba, hatimaye dinai tupate Rwanda. Let me be your best setana, popote nitaenda. Niahidi utanifuata, I'ma show you the way, I'ma be your papa wemba.
Nikiamuka unanituliza,
na nikianguka unanipuliza dadawe.
na kila ukiugua inaniumiza.
Ipambe ua, ikuje na jua, mina wewe, tuwe na ndoa bila doa. Ipambe ua, ikuje na jua, mina wewe, tuwe na ndoa bila doa. Ipambe ua, ikuje na jua, mina wewe, tuwe na ndoa bila doa. Ipambe ua, ikuje na jua, mina wewe, tuwe na ndoa bila doa.
Yes, we're keeping it local right here on Sheria Dive on Pawa Radio with me, James WaNjeri. And of course, now we get to the meat of the matter, which is PPP. You've probably heard that term. PPP refers to a public-private partnership. And essentially what happens in a PPP is that you have the public sector, in most times which is the government, and the private sector, okay? And it's a partnership between them. And the idea is that they come together to design, plan, finance, construct and or operate projects that will traditionally be regarded as falling within the public sector, okay? So the government is able to identify, this is a need we have in the public sector. Then they say, let's look for someone in the private sector who can actually come and carry this work out for us. So some of the key areas that you'll actually see PPPs get involved in is transport, water and sewerage, telecommunications, power, social services. So most times you'll actually find that those demands cannot be fully met by the public sector. And in case of countries like Kenya, there's so much corruption and wastage of resources that there's no money to actually do the things that need to be done. And so governments actually find themselves in a space where you have all these demands by citizens and you cannot meet those demands. So what do? Then you go the PPP route. Now, there are different arrangements when it comes to a PPP. Number one is what you have, the BOT, which is build, operate, transfer. All right? Here, the private sector institution will finance, it will build, it will maintain and operate a facility for a given period of time. And how they get their money back is they collect maybe the tolls during that concession period. So this is build, operate, transfer. So they'll build it, they'll operate it, then after a certain period, they transfer it back to the government. Then the other one is BOO, which is build, own, operate. So in this case, the private entity finances, it builds and operates the project, but there will be no transfer back to the government. So, then number three, we have what we call the BOOT, boot, which is build, own, operate, and then transfer. So here the idea is the same. The private sector builds, they own the project, they operate it, and eventually they transfer that project back to the public after an agreed period of time. Then we have what we call the BTO, which is build, transfer, operate. So here, the private organization will finance, it will build, and once completed, it transfers the ownership to the public sector agency. The public sector agency then leases the facility back to the private developer under a long-term lease. Now, during the term of the lease, the private developer operates the facility and earns a return from user charges, etc. Okay? So that's build, transfer, operate. Then, of course, you also have what we call the DBFO, which is the design, build, finance, and operate. So the private sector is responsible for financing. They also design, they construct, and they're also involved in the operation of the project. And they are compensated by service payments from the government during the life of the project. Now, PPPs, as they are highly regulated because part of the danger with PPPs is that they can, for instance, if you get the wrong private sector institution to come on board, then a project you're working on could collapse, right? But then also, if you have a rogue government and rogue government officials, they might as well just use the PPP as a way of, making money for themselves. However, it will be probably important to note that PPPs actually happen all over the world, okay? Canada has about 291 active projects worth an estimated $135 billion where PPP has been involved in that, okay? So, but how Canada actually did it well and is a model for the world is that Canada went ahead to establish what they call a national, non-profit, non-partisan, member-based organization in 1993. And this organization had broad representation from across the public and private sectors, and it's called the Canadian Council for Public-Private Partnerships. Now, the aim of that agency is to facilitate the adoption of international best practices and educate stakeholders and the community on the economic and social benefits of public-private partnerships and to encourage PPPs. Now, I'm giving this background because it's important, because of the Adani deal that is ongoing in Kenya now, it's important for us to actually look at what is the global standard for how these things are done. And as you'll notice, one of the things that the Canadian Council for Public-Private Partnerships must do is that they must educate stakeholders and the community on the economic and social benefits of the public-private partnerships. Now, let's look at the sub-Saharan area. In sub-Saharan Africa, South Africa leads the continent because they have what one would consider a strong legislative framework, which is implemented by its national treasury. And so what it does is that it manages risk and helps to stabilize returns for private investors. And this was set up in the mid-2000s, okay? So as at 2021, which is the year the report I'm looking at was written, as at 2021, South Africa had 34 public-private partnership projects that were valued at $5.6 billion, and they had been completed. And some of the sectors they were dealing with included health, transport, tourism, water and sanitation, and office accommodation. Now, other countries have, of course, come on board on the PPP bandwagon. We have Uganda with 28 projects worth about $2 billion. And you have Rwanda with 10 PPP projects worth about $694 million. Then you have Kenya, which by 2021 had 23 projects worth an estimated $2.9 billion, which was to reach final closure as of 2018. All right? Now, I am laying this first as a background for us to understand what's happening at the global stage. There is no problem with a PPP. Actually, PPPs should be encouraged to the extent that they help countries that do not have the resources, or even countries that have the resources, but they do not have the know-how. They just help you to get services, pay for those services, and improve the lives of your citizens. But the Constitution of Kenya, and maybe it's not even but, most importantly, the Constitution of Kenya creates that a society where we actually operate in transparency and openness. If you look at Article 10 of the Constitution of Kenya, one of the public values and one of the principles of governance we have in Kenya is transparency and openness. This, I think, is one of those things that has been most difficult for people in government to understand. Government still operates in a lot of secrecy. And the problem with secrecy is that it becomes the perfect breeding ground for people to go and make side deals, for people to go and start asking for commissions on the land, for people to start asking for things, and it breeds corruption. So for Kenya, the idea is that if you walk to someone tomorrow and you ask them about Adani, they need to be able to give you the A to Z of it. They need to tell you, yeah, this is the priority project, this is the challenge we are having, this is the solution we are bringing, this is how the contracts will be done. That, I think, is still something that those in our government are still struggling to come to terms with, that you need to do things in a very open way. Anyway, let's get a music break, and then when we come back, we're going to be looking at the public-private partnership structure in Kenya, because we do have an act of parliament in Kenya that guides on how public-private partnerships should be handled and what should be done. And of course, I know everyone is asking, hey, Adani, what's happening? But tutafika hapo, sindio? One step at a time. Elijah Moses is asking, in the case of Masengeli, can we make a citizen's arrest? Yes. Someone can just make a citizen's arrest and deliver him to the nearest police station or even to Kamiti prison, and he serves his time there. I remember in 2002, after Kibaki became president, Kenyans used to arrest police officers for asking for bribes. So we need to go back there. Let's get some music.
From sunrise to sunset, all day and night. Power Radio.
Ukiniona waniona na aibu sana, wase wangu kwa mtaa wanawika bana. Siku hizi naogopa kuomba Bwana, juu hata mfuko za wakora za imba hosana. Walinipa uongo nami nikakubali, nikamfuata nyuki nikalimwa na asali. Weka tumbo mbele, wacha kile nyuma, Mighty Cavaliers walisema sikusikiza. Oh,
Baba na mama walinikusia ewe kijana, kuwa mwanangu jione dunia ina mambo yao sikuyasikiza. Sasa mimi najuta, kweli najionea dunia ina mambo. Dunia ina mambo, dunia ina mambo, dunia ina mambo bana, dunia ina mambo, dunia ina mambo, dunia ina mambo sana, dunia ina mambo, dunia ina mambo, dunia ina mambo bana, dunia ina mambo, dunia ina mambo, dunia ina mambo.
nafunga bao, nitapita dao. Ubaya binadamu ni rahisi kusahau. Changu ni chetu lakini chako ni chako. Mtu wangu wacha vako. Marafiki wamekuwa manafiki bana, najionea tena kushangaa sana. Niliacha kuwa mjinga ati sasa najiringa, ukistaajabu ya Musa ya Firauni bado.
Walinambia kijana jihadhari na ulimwengu, hao walimwengu si wazuri kwako kijana, yao sikuyasikiza. Sasa mimi najuta, kweli najionea dunia ina mambo. Dunia ina mambo, dunia ina mambo, dunia ina mambo bana, dunia ina mambo, dunia ina mambo, dunia ina mambo sana, dunia ina mambo, dunia ina mambo, dunia ina mambo bana, dunia ina mambo, dunia ina mambo, dunia ina mambo.
ina mambo mobjo, wengine wako church, wengine wako lojo, uongo na ukweli, wanasiasa na porojo, mwingine ezi nyora, mwingine amekazwa na mkojo, blada blanda, shada kwa gwanda, sina ndai lakini parking ni andas, vipara na marasta, akina Sara na rasa man, gwanda ya, pasa kijomdom yes na ya, but ivo, ndivo iko, wakikuja na siga, mi kuja na kiko, wakitoka gambio, mi toka kijiko, cause sura soft zingine na mapimples, mashavu big zingine na madimples, life complicated, double Z, just a bunch you keep it simple, so
Dunia ina mambo, dunia ina mambo, dunia ina mambo bana, dunia ina mambo, dunia ina mambo, dunia ina mambo sana, dunia ina mambo, dunia ina mambo, dunia ina mambo bana, dunia ina mambo, dunia ina mambo, dunia ina mambo.
Dunia ina mambo. And of course that question is, Kenya kuna mambo ama kuna mambo? Kenya kuna mambo. And part of it is people are asking, wanauza kila kitu. Wakili, are they selling everything? Public-private partnerships, as I've mentioned, sometimes you'll have that option where the entity actually builds, operates, and retains the ownership. However, Kenya's public-private partnership sector first was created through what we call the PPP policy statement of 2011. And then later we had the Act, the Public-Private Partnerships Act, number 15 of 2013. And now under that act, it stipulates that, number one, the government must retain total strategic control of the service. Okay, so Kenya does not have that option of signing away a project to a private entity. Number two, the government is mandated to secure a new infrastructure which will become the government's assets at the end of the contract period. And number three, the allocation of project and performance risk is to the party best able to manage that risk or to mitigate it. Okay? So of course, because of the number of projects that we've done, Kenya is considered to have what we call a mature PPP market. And we have a comprehensive legislative framework as well. Now, we also introduced what we call the Public-Private Partnerships Bill 2021. And that bill was to address the shortcomings of the PPP Act 2013, because now it introduced a framework for streamlined project processes with clear timelines, expanded procurement options, and robust processes for proposals that are privately initiated, what we call the PIIP, Privately Initiated Investment Proposals. Now, what does the Act say? The Act provides that, number one, we're going to establish what we call the Directorate of Public-Private Partnerships, okay? And this shall be the lead institution in the implementation of PPP projects in Kenya. Some of the activities that are under this directorate include guiding the selection of PPP projects, overseeing project appraisals, as well as contract management framework for projects. And the idea here is to establish an open, efficient, and equitable process for the implementation, management, and the monitoring of projects. So the first question we need to ask ourselves as we look at Adani: did the Directorate of Public-Private Partnerships actually have any input in the matter? And if they did, they had an obligation to actually reveal that information. Now, number two, under this act, the concession period for investors involved in state-owned build, operate, transfer. Remember BOT? Build, operate, transfer, where they build, they operate, and then they transfer back to the country. It is capped at 30 years. So you'll never find a project in Kenya where the period is more than 30 years. And the idea for this timeline is that 30 years should be sufficient for an investor to recoup their major initial investments. Okay? But when you're coming together with the timeline, when you're deciding what the timeline is, the parties that, or what we call the contracting authorities, they must take into account the lifespan of the technology being used, the investment standards required, economic and financial viability, and the consideration for maintaining delivery standards. Now, the new law also expands the role of the private sector in PPP initiatives beyond financing, and now includes matters to do with constructions, operation, maintenance, all right? So it's not just about financing. And it introduces new contract structures. So the idea here is let's try and broaden the scope of what is classified as a PPP as much as possible, okay? And of course, that act also made it possible that the county governments can enter into PPP agreements with private parties or private entities, which are then responsible for administration of the projects after conducting a feasibility study. Sawa sawa? Now, we have a corruption problem in this country. Okay? And I don't want you to say that it's me giving you stories. Here is the former Prime Minister of the Republic of Kenya, the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, speaking about corruption, especially in the construction industry and in government. Here are his thoughts. Let's go.
And I was told when I was Minister for Roads and Public Works. Sure. Your Excellency, let me tell you a story. And I was told when I was Minister for Roads and Public Works in my other early incarnation. This is a minister from Nigeria for roads and public works who went on a tour to Malaysia. There, on invitation. So he was taken by his host, taken around the country, shown the highways that they have constructed in Malaysia. And then in the evening, he was treated to dinner at the residence of that minister. There, he found a nice mansion, a swimming pool, and nice sofa sets, and dinner sets. So at dinner, so he asked his host, how did you manage this house? The host took him to the balcony and showed him, look yonder. Do you see that highway there? Yes, 10% here. Two years later, it was the turn of the Malaysian to pay a return visit. When he went to Nigeria, he was taken around the roads. So roads were potholed, some of them untarmacked, and very poor condition, very poor state of affairs. In the evening, he was taken to dinner, and he found a palatial mansion, Olympic-sized swimming pool. The sofa sets were imported from Britain. Most of the chinaware were golden. So he asked his host, how do you achieve all this? He took him to the balcony. And so, do you see that highway there? The Malaysian could see nothing. He was told 100% here.
Well. That's the story of infrastructure projects in Africa. You know? Unakula yote, mzima mzima. Which is why transparency is important. Because once things are transparent and people know this is what the project is, this is the money needed, this is how the money is going to be raised, these are the assets that are going to be transferred, all this. Once that is made known and becomes very clear, then people have confidence in such a process. And of course, it eliminates these opportunities for corruption. Now, Kenya actually has several PPPs, projects that have happened. In the area of infrastructure, the Nairobi Expressway is a PPP. We have the LAPSET project, which is the Lamu Port, South Sudan, Ethiopia transport. Then you have the Nairobi Western Bypass, that was also a PPP. In the areas of affordable housing, you have River Estate in Ngara, Pangani Housing Project, Kenyatta University Hostels for a 10,000 bed hostel. You have the University of Embu Hostels, Moi University Hostels, Southeastern Kenya University Hostels. Those are also under PPP. In the area, I think we have others as well. The Nyali Bridge in Mombasa is a PPP. The Nairobi Thika Road was also a PPP. Then Nairobi Commuter Rail, Kisumu Seaport, the expansion of Nairobi Jomo Kenyatta Airport, which is now where we are going on. And nawapeleka tu polepole, one step at a time. Then a second container terminal in Mombasa, housing for security forces, and Mombasa Conventional Center. All these are some of the projects that are in line. So let's see. What are the benefits? What are the benefits of engaging in a PPP? Number one is that it makes it easy, of course, as a government to have access to finance for projects, okay? Remember, our government says that out of every 100 shillings raised in Kenya, 70 goes to debt servicing. So money for development is actually not there. And I think that money for development can easily be found if we say we are going to recover stolen money and we cut off corruption. But corruption is the lifeblood of our politics, unfortunately. So the other thing is that it helps you to transfer your risk to the private sector, okay? Of course, the government has access to private sector efficiencies. One of the challenges we always have when we talk about government and the ability to do things is how inefficient government can be. For instance, just think of IDs. Why does it take so long to get an ID? I met a kid who had applied for an ID last year. They still don't have it. So those are some of those government inefficiencies that we have to, deal with. But then also the other benefit is that it gives you large-scale investment and development, okay? Ordinarily, if the government was to get into some of those projects, then the taxpayers would find themselves, really strained. You have to raise taxes and all those things. Then it also enhances the ease of doing business. For instance, when you've created the laws around PPP and all that, it means that it's now clear if you want to get into these projects, this is the way to do it, and that affects the ease of doing business. And then, of course, it ensures that with the private sector coming on board, then you're able to deliver projects of high quality with international standards. Of course, PPPs also come with their own challenges. Chief among them is inadequate planning. Okay? There's a challenge in identifying the suitable projects and gauging the risks involved, as well as testing the likelihood of success. Sometimes selecting the most qualified project developer for a specific project has been tricky, okay, for government. And we have this thing we call direct sourcing or, direct procurement, where the government just says it's this person and it's them. And that is now the monkey that is on Adani's back. Because Adani has actually received very poor reviews in the countries they've been involved in. They've been involved in Australia. Australia has said never again. Actually, Australia has banned the government from ever getting into any partnerships with Adani because of what happened over there. Bangladesh now is actually looking to investigate some of the Adani projects that have been carried out. So there was a Hindenburg report, of course, that also showed that the Adani companies were also engaging in unfair business practices and, trying to manipulate the stock price. They got a fine for that. So Adani has that reputational risk that it comes with, okay? One other challenge that is usually faced in PPP is that the process can be lengthy and it can also be irregular, okay? So delays, you'll find you have delays because of procurement of transaction advisors, and then cases of corruption, irregular awarding of tenders. They raise speculation and they cause a loss of public confidence. And that's one of the things that is very, very important for any government that wants to engage in PPP. You need to have public confidence. Is there public confidence in this Adani project, for instance? Then, do we have enough supporting bulk infrastructure? For example, if you're going to build, as we talk about housing, for instance, have we built the sewer lines and the drainage systems? Do we have enough road network? Or are we building houses and then now we can no longer deal with our sewage? Okay? So an insufficiency of bulk infrastructure also affects how the public-private partnerships are handled. Then sometimes you have differing goals between the private and the public sector, okay? So the private sector, for them, the focus is we need to protect our investment. But the public sector, their main interest is protecting the interests of the citizens, okay? So sometimes you can have a clash on that. And then, of course, government being government, you have the challenge of bureaucracy and lengthy approval processes. Then there's inadequate risk mitigation, like these are the risks, how are we dealing with the risk? Then there's high transaction costs, okay? For instance, if you're talking about bringing consultants on board and all that. Now, I've done all this just to give you an idea, okay? To give you an idea of what we are dealing with. So that now when we come back, let's look at the Adani. So far, what do we know? Of course, the problem with Adani has been that the information has been very sketchy. We actually do not have enough information on what is happening. So we're going to rely on what has been submitted in Parliament and also what's in the mainstream media, as we also talk about the whistleblowers and how important they have been to help bring this matter to the limelight. Tuko pamoja, tuko pamoja.
Pawa Radio. Tune in and power up.
Sheria nafuata, sheria inawafuata. Nitabaki na nini? Nitabaki na nini? Nitabaki na nini? Nitabaki na nini? Nitabaki na nani? Nitabaki na nini?
Wanipa mabaki ukila minofu na huoni uchovu kunithulumu, hata ikiwa maisha machungu, naombea nafsi zetu kwa Mungu. Jua limechomoza, ndege angani wanapaa, ndovu misituni, amani mioyoni, huzuni sioni nishang'aa.
Mwananchi ya kawaida napeleka tumbo ina njaa, huru pa kusikiza uongo ya mwanasiasa. Wanalinda tajiri kwa bunduki na maskini kwa rungu, then you call me a brother. Kwani
nani? Kama freedom ya wananchi haiko na mimi, na nitabaki na nani? Kama waliotuacha hawahesabiki. Najenga inchi na inchi hainijengi. Mbuga ya wanyama, mboga kwa walafie. Nitabaki na nini? Good conduct ninayo na sina kazi. Sheria nafuata, sheria inawafuata. Nitabaki na nini? Nitabaki na nini? Nitabaki na nini? Nitabaki na nini? Nitabaki na nani? Nitabaki na nini?
wengi wako homeless, nyumba 10 ziko enough. Tunapenda ubaguzi, sisi ni kama composition bila paragraph. Wengi wamekosa haya, tribalism ni kama dhambi yenye hata external hard disk ya million terabyte iko enough to save. The only person iko allowed kuita baba ni yule mwenye unishave.
Yani
siasa ingekuwa ni bibi ningeipatia talaka juu kazi ni kutugawanya kwa matabaka. Eti chief anaambia watu wakate nyasi na tunajua yule msichana walimbaka. Wanatupelekea security kwa mpaka na tunajua tu shida iko hapa hapa. Wakichukua nitabaki na nini?
Nitabaki na nini? Mie mwenye inchi nafungua macho nisipoteze kila ninacho. Sitatumia kifua, nitatumia ubongo. Maarifa nimepata kwa taarifa. Mwananchi mjenga taifa.
Ugaidi ni hali, uwezi maliza the two other verses a national anthem. Ukishinda na nguruwe, usicomplain matope. Upendo amani, sote tuko sote. Ukweli wameficha, kakata ya Toyota. Vitu si laini, lakini ulipopanga laini ukuwekewa kamote. Same way, tushikane, tujenge inchi tukamwote.
Nitabaki na nini? Nitabaki na nani? Nitabaki na nini?
Nitabaki na nini? That's Sarabi. And I had Giuliani in there somewhere. Huh? Now, you cannot look at JKIA without first going back into history. And I don't know how many Kenyans actually remember that we had something that was called the Greenfield. Do you remember Greenfield? Mm-hmm. In December 2013, President Uhuru Kenyatta and then Deputy President William Ruto, who's now the president, oversaw the groundbreaking of what was known as a Greenfield Terminal. And this was a 56 billion investment that was intended to enhance JKIA's passenger capacity to 20 million a year, while also building a second runway, which experts said would be a necessity at least by 2035. So the idea is that JKIA cannot handle the numbers it's getting. By 2035, we actually need to expand this airport, all right? Now, works had been clear to start. Then the contracts were cancelled in March 2016. And part of it was that top figures in government and private businessmen had differed, and the airport deal was cancelled as a move in settling political scores. So what happened to Greenfield? Greenfield collapsed. Then 4.5 billion that had already been paid to the Chinese contractors for the project was lost. An additional 600 million was paid to settle the matter by way of arbitration. So 5.1 billion shillings was lost in Greenfield. It never took off. Right? That is the background with which then we need to look at the idea for Greenfield. Now, in June 2023, the then Transport CS Kipchumba Murkomen announced that the government would be inviting bids for the construction of a new terminal at the JKIA. Murkomen said, this is his statement according to media reports, in the next couple of weeks, at most 2 months, we should have put public an expression of interest for investors to come and build a new terminal. There is no evidence that that expression of interest ever went out. None. In December 2023, the same Kipchumba Murkomen then came back with another statement. He said, we have started the process of advertising for construction of a GFT that will be done under a PPP, all right? And that ad will be out by mid-January 2024, and by 2027, we'll have a new terminal and sort out the mess of infrastructure. Once again, no advertisement was made. Instead, the invitation for bids for an agency to advise the government was published by the Kenya Airports Authority in May 2024. However, the Adani deal had already commenced by the time the invitation is being made by the Kenya Airports Authority. Because what the Kenya Airports Authority was saying is, we need an agency to advise us. Okay? So please submit your bids. But in the background, something had already happened. So this is the invitation. The invitation read, a request for expression of interest for provision of consultancy services for PPP project of construction of new terminal building and associated works at JKIA. In March 2024, Adani Airport Holdings Limited submitted a privately initiated proposal to Kenya Airports Authority, and they were proposing to develop and expand JKIA. And the idea was we go through the build, operate, and transfer model of public-private partnership. Now, there have been a few questions that people have asked about this Adani deal and how it has gone. Number one, the proposal by Adani was received in March 2024. The Cabinet of Kenya approved the National Aviation Policy and the JKIA Medium-Term Investment Plan on 11th of June 2024. Now, those two documents clearly spell out the future intentions of the Kenya Airports Authority. However, by this time, Adani had already submitted their well-informed proposal. In February 2024, ALG, which is a global transport and infrastructure consulting firm contracted by Kenya Airports Authority to advise on the prospects of putting up a new passenger terminal building at the JKIA, had submitted their findings. Guys, this information is publicly available. This information is available. I'm actually looking at Citizen Digital. This is where this information is, because Citizen did some investigative journalism on this, and these were their findings. So ALG concluded that Kenya Airports Authority needed to invest in a new facility by getting into an airport concession that would last up to 3 years. Okay? ALG, however, recommended that even though a public-private partnership was a logical proposition, it would be best to use an open tendering system. So according to ALG, an open tender process was the best international practice, and it was the default procurement method. And they said, please make this public. Invite as many people as possible to come with their proposals. Adani, in their proposal, opposed an open tender process on the argument that it would lead to time wastage. Okay? And this is what the documents say. Adani said, compared to competitive bidding, which is a lengthy and time-consuming process, PIP offers fast-track and time-bound procurement. PIP allows terms beyond financial aspects, ensuring citizens' welfare. So, what is in this Adani privately initiated deal? I have seen Senator Onyonka actually say that the CS for Energy lied before Parliament because he was able to prove that other companies had actually made proposals on bringing, putting together this JKIA deal. Some of them had actually come forward and sent letters and said, hey, this is something we feel we can do. What is the process? What do we need to do? Now, Adani in the initial documents proposed to broadly build and operate airport facilities for a period of 30 years. And the Adani deal is about operation, maintenance, and management of the airport. Adani is proposing that they will upgrade and expand the airport in a phased manner as may be required under the master plan of KAA. So it will be done in phases, okay? The Adani plan also proposes to develop, operate, and maintain the city side. So practically what this means is that Adani proposes to take over nearly all the functions that are currently being performed by the Kenya Airports Authority. So you're going to have the Kenya Airports Authority being almost a defunct agency. They'll have no job to do. In April 2024, the Kenya Airports Authority reviewed the Adani proposal and they found it untenable. They said the feasibility study report submitted by Adani has not fully satisfied criteria of project feasibility and affordability. At the time, Kenya Airports Authority found that Adani had proposed to first refurbish existing facilities at the JKIA before moving to build a new terminal. The Kenya Airports Authority, however, wanted a new terminal built first to be followed by refurbishments. So remember this time, the government of Kenya is assuring Kenyans that everything is under control. Then, details emerged of a scheme to roll out the Adani project. On 7th of August 2024, a new company that was named Global Airports Operator LLC was registered in Abu Dhabi in the UAE, United Arab Emirates. On the same day, Adani Enterprises then reported to the Indian authorities, because it's an Indian company, they reported to the Indian authorities that the new company, Global Airports Operator LLC, had been incorporated with specific objects of investment or acquisition for construction, operation, and maintenance of airports outside India. 3 weeks later, on 30th August, Adani Enterprises Limited filed another notification with the Indian authorities, including the National Stock Exchange of India, that a new company had been incorporated in Kenya under the name Airports Infrastructure PLC as a step-down subsidiary company. So the Kenyan company, Airport Infrastructure PLC, is to be owned wholly by the Abu Dhabi-based company, which in turn is owned by the Adani Airports Holdings Limited, which in itself is owned by the Adani Group. Are you seeing it? It's a staircase of ownership. Okay? Now, Citizen, when doing this feature, were of the view that the location of the holding company in Abu Dhabi tallies with narratives that the real investors eyeing the Nairobi airport are based in the UAE. And it was reported that already some individuals in the UAE had put in $2 billion into the company to fund the Nairobi project. Okay? That was a suspicion. Now, the terms of the Adani deal have been shrouded in secrecy, but snippets have been leaking out of various sources, and they're raising eyebrows. For instance, in the initial proposal, Adani demanded protection by the government of Kenya from competition, and that no other airport would be built within a radius of 150 kilometers. Remember, there was a plan to actually build another airport in whether in Machakos or in Embakasi. Okay? Now, in a draft contract that was dated June 2024, the figure was reduced to a radius of 100 kilometers, with reports indicating that it may have changed back to 150 kilometers. Adani then stated that the construction of a new airport to provide commercial passenger services within a 100-kilometer radius of the airport would be an action of material advance by the government of Kenya. So I need you to stand at JKIA and then go 100 kilometers all round. How much room does that cover? You cannot build an airport there in that 100-kilometer radius. You cannot. So if you're listening to this, Ebu check for me what's in 100-kilometer radius around JKIA. What are we talking about? Does this even extend all the way to? Does it extend all the way to the Mara? I don't know. Does it? Anyway, let's continue with this feature by Citizen. They say that if the government actually allows a new airport to be constructed within a 100-kilometer radius, then the Adani company will be entitled to compensation for additional cost incurred and or loss of revenues suffered as a result. According to the draft contract, to the extent Adani is prevented from performing any of its obligations under the agreement as a result of such material advance government action, it will be entitled to be relieved from the performance of such obligations for as long as the material advance government action persists. Basically, what they are saying here is building another airport within a 100-kilometer radius is advanced government action. If you do that, then we will be relieved from performing our obligations for as long as that exists. But will they still be paid? That's the question. Now, these guys have actually done the aerial radius. 100 kilometers from JKIA stretches to Magadi in Kajiado. To the south, it stretches all the way to Nyeri and neighboring Mount Kenya counties to the north, Nakuru County to the west, and Machakos County to the east. Which means if you were to build an airport, you have to build it maybe uko in Kitui or Makueni. You can't even build in Machakos, where there is so much land to actually build an airport. Ladies and gentlemen. Now, if you make it 150 kilometers, it stretches to the Kenyan border with Tanzania in Namanga, Laikipia County to the north, Kitui to the east, and Masai Mara Reserve in Narok County to the west. Bro, we are never going to build another airport as long as Adani is doing this for 30 years. Now, ALG advised Kenya Airports Authority on the Adani proposal, and they said Adani's financial proposals would be bad for the country. First, Adani projected a 52% spike in fees in the first year of concession to be transferred to airport users. 52% spike in fees. So whatever you're paying, work a 52% on top. Kenya Airports Authority in its evaluation noted that the spike would not be related to any improvements of the JKIA. KAA feared that it would be burdening airport users, making Jomo Kenyatta International Airport unattractive as a regional hub. Now, Adani also proposed an 18% return on debt and a 21% return on equity. Those rates are too high because ordinarily, and this is what the Kenya Airports Authority was saying, an airport concession should range between 8 and 15% of return. 18% is over. And then you make it 21%. Imagine a loan where you have to pay someone 21% interest or 18% interest. That's ridiculous. Now, for 30 years. So, Transport CS Davis Chirchir said, we will negotiate on the return of equity. We are going to allow them and the debt equity ratio because ordinarily equity is expensive. So this guy is saying, Nisawa, Kenya Airports Authority have said what they said. We are going to give it to them. Now, ALG, who is a PPP advisor, have recommended that the concessions, the returns should vary depending on the performance of the business and that the charges should be adjusted only based on the consumer pricing index. On the implementation of the project, ALG, which is the advisor to KAA, noted that the proposed investment plan supplied by Adani failed to include essential infrastructure requirements, including the second runway and the necessary number of contact stands for the new terminal. So this, in their view, would lead to uncertainty on the development plan with a considerable level of risk to the transaction, and it leaves open the possibility of future disputes. What are they saying here? The plan is not very clear. So we are probably going to have disputes moving ahead. Okay? It does not even include the second runway that we've been talking about. Remember what we spoke about Greenfield earlier? Now, what happens in case of unresolved disputes? When a dispute is not resolved, Adani proposes that that dispute should be resolved by arbitration administered by the Singapore Internal Arbitration Center, and that the seat of the arbitration shall be mutually agreed either for Singapore, United Arab Emirates, or London. When Kenyans have actually gone for these arbitrations abroad, it never spells well for the country. We lose a lot of this. Now, according to citizens, they say that reports indicate that despite the desire by various government institutions to conduct due diligence, including the Kenya Airports Authority, certain senior government advisors have been piling pressure on some of those institutions to speed up their side of due diligence with calls to close the deal as soon as possible. So there are senior government officials who are like, Arakisha, Arakisha. And of course, we know Arakisha is also another word for tumekula pesa bana. So we need to justify why we have eaten money. Now, it has also emerged that the airport deal had been the subject of varied deliberations during foreign tours made by senior government officials. In some of those instances, influential businessmen have offered free air travel to and from Nairobi with significant progress recorded after such engagements. Do you remember my friend who gave me the jet which I used to travel around the world? And you remember my friend? That's all I have to say about that matter. Now, the problem here is that given the heavy influence from powerful individuals in business and in government, some of the key stakeholders are said to have taken a backseat so that they do not appear as if they are sabotaging an important government project. Churchill said, it will include taking the concessional agreements to Parliament, and I want to assure you that Cabinet is here to protect the interest of Kenyans. That is Adani for you. Now, we would not have known about the Adani deal had it not been for one gentleman known as Mr. Nelson Amenya. Nelson Amenya is the gentleman who came across some documents touching on Adani, and then he reached out to Senator Onyonka. Once that was done, then things took the toll that they did. And so we always appreciate whistleblowers. Nelson Amenya, he was the whistleblower of the JKIA PPP heist, because the problem is that what it looks like is that An agreement had already been done, and then now we're trying to carry out a process to sanitize that agreement. You know? That is not the way it should be done. Transparency, openness requires that from the get-go, we come with a proposal, you do the invitation, you get the feedback from people, you get the bids, you review the bids, and you inform the public what's happening. Part of the challenge that the Kenya Kwanza administration is having, and they do not seem to learn even from the finance bill, they are not taking the time to educate people on what they're doing. They want to push through with their things because in their opinion, it's in the best interest of the country. Mtajua huko mbele. And I think it comes from the baba na mama syndrome that we used to have in the Moi days. Baba taifa. Moi alikuwa baba wa taifa. Bro, tuko 2024 hakuna baba ya mtu hapa manzi. You are a leader. Your work is to be there, make decisions that favor Kenyans. And as you make those decisions, you have to consult us. You have to tell us, this is what I want to do. What do you people think? Do you have any other ideas? Kenyans are not idiots. We have some of the brightest people on earth in this country. There are Kenyan citizens across the world who are doing great things. Building cities, designing cities, seated in top international bodies and organizations. Ladies and gentlemen, you are not dealing with idiots when it comes to Kenya. So please, give us a break and just allow us to ask the questions we are asking and answer the questions. The days of government, ruling in the shadows and being opaque, those days are gone. And I don't know how this government is going to get it. They do not seem to get that simple concept. From the days of finance bill protests, they are not getting that very simple concept that people actually want to be involved in their own governance. They want to know what's happening. They want to give their thoughts. They want to give their ideas. They want to... 30 years, bro, our president will be in his 80s or 90s in 30 years. If you're 30 years old today, you'll be paying Adani back for 30 years. You'll be in your 60s. How does that affect your income? How does that affect your future prospects? All these deals the government is getting into, those years may seem long, but you and I are the ones who are actually going to bear the brunt of that. I always like to say 2013 to 2022 is what I consider the lost age. That was a lost decade. Government inefficiencies, corruption at the highest levels, entrepreneurship, education, everything was collapsing. The guys who went through that period and survived, man, I have immense respect for you. We cannot have another decade that is lost. So we have to be on the table, we have to be involved, we have to know, and we have to ask questions. And government should not be afraid of people who ask questions. Because if everything done is above board, then there's no reason to be afraid. There's no reason to actually hold back. There's no reason to deny people the right to know what's happening in their country. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it from us on Adani, on the PPP. And of course, we save the best for last, but it's always important for us to know exactly what is happening here. Because when you come to make a decision, you need to make sure that you have all the facts with you. So go out there and spread that gospel. And as I said, it's a beautiful, beautiful afternoon. Have a lovely weekend. We are back here on Monday between 5 and 6 on Sheria Dive. I'm looking forward to just having you on board. And just mad props to everyone who's been able to join us, everyone who's been able to share their thoughts on social media, also on the YouTube live chat. Asanteni sana. God bless you. Please take care of yourself. And as we always say, usishikwe leo, juu kishikwa leo ni hadi Monday, manze. So please be safe out there. God bless you.
Pawa Radio. Tune in and power up.
safari tunapita kama moshi, na kabla tuzame mchangani kuna kushinda na kufeli. Oh, inabidi ujijue tofauti ya mwalimu na mwanafunzi ni ujuzi na ujuaji. Oh, it's unbelievable that we make it this far. Undeniable, we see the promised land from afar, and it's so beautiful. No, they can't touch the fire, and you know it's not in vain. Steady tripping through the pain. Oh, we're steady rocking on the midnight train. Steady rocking on the midnight train. Oh Lord, steady rocking on the midnight train. Steady rocking on the midnight train. On the midnight train.
Siku zazidi badilika, mengi yazidi kunipita jama. Oh no, maji yalipozidi unga, hawakudhani tutafika. It's unbelievable that we made it this far. Undeniable to see the promised land from afar. So beautiful, they gon' know who we are. They keep on walking in the rain. Kuna blessings in the pain. Whoa.
Steady rocking on the midnight train.
Steady, ready.
Steady rocking on the midnight train. Oh Lord, steady rocking on the midnight train. To Zion. It's on our road to Zion. Nothing will ever deny us. Whatever it takes, keep on rocking. Whatever it takes, keep on moving. To Zion, to Zion, to Zion. Yeah. Steady rocking on the midnight train. Steady rocking on the midnight train. Steady rocking on the midnight train. To Zion, to Zion, to Zion, to Zion. Steady rocking on the midnight train. Steady rocking on the midnight train. Oh Lord, steady rocking on the midnight train. To Zion.